Hello world, welcome back to the PG.biz podcast with me, Brian Baglow, and the ever awesome Peggy Ann Saltz. Peggy, hello, how are you?
I am fine. Now that you've called me awesome, how can I be anything other than that? I thought it would be great, since everyone's talking about building an ecosystem in gaming. Why don't we actually talk to someone who does that, who architects that? So we're checking in with a company that is crushing it on several levels because of its ecosystem. The company is MY.GAMES. It's a leading European publisher and developer headquartered in Amsterdam with over 1 billion registered users worldwide. So it's a giant. But not only is it winning because of the games, it's winning because of a team effort. And we're going to take a look at how to make and broker the relationships that matter the most. And our guest, well, this is what he does. This is his daily job because he's head of industry relations. His name, Anton Gorodetsky. He's a great connector, working at the intersection of PR, biz dev, events, communications, you name it. Sounds like a great job. So we're already a little bit envious and welcoming you, Anton, to PG.biz.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Hi, Peggy. Hi, Brian. Huge pleasure and honor to be here with you today.
You know, it's doing the day job can often be fun if you work in the games industry, but getting out and talking about your day job, sometimes I think it can be even more fun because it can reinvigorate you and inspire you and go, oh yeah, my job is kind of cool. Welcome on board, and you are in a great place because MY.GAMES has been really active recently. You know, I know the organisation just recently joined the Dutch Game Developers Association, and I know that you've been a long time force in the accelerator programme, Game Drive, with Google and other organisations out there. So you really seem to be kind of reaching out, you know, beyond the confines of the company. So what's the drive? What's the goal here?
Yeah, MY.GAMES is, as you have said, crushing it, and we're really very active. We've been very active recently and have huge plans for the upcoming future. Like they say, more to come. And as for the associations and the Game Drive program, we very much appreciate the think global, act local approach. So we want to stay, you know, at the forefront of the global gaming industry. We very much follow the dynamics. We very much follow the player behavior around the whole world. And we, for example, are in the process or have already opened several hubs, since MY.GAMES is fully remote. So you can really work from anywhere you feel like doing that. And we, as you have said, we are headquartered in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. We also have a big office in Cyprus. We have recently opened an office in Yerevan, which is in Armenia. And we are opening up offices in Abu Dhabi, in the Emirates, in Belgrade, Serbia, and also opening an office in Georgia, so the country. So yeah, we have a hub in Turkey. So we are very much trying to be global, but we do care about the particular regions, like the MENA region, Europe. And we have joined not only the Dutch Gaming Association, we have also just joined UK. You definitely have heard something about.
Oh, yeah.
We are also very fresh members of the Tech Island Association, which is an IT thing in an IT alliance in Cyprus. And it's kind of a spoiler. I'm not sure I can talk about that, but we're also opening an office since we're opening an office in Belgrade, we very much want to join the SGA, which is Serbian Gaming Association. So yeah, and as for Game Drive, it used to be an accelerator, and we did start it with Google back in 2020, and since then we have a little bit refocused that, so it's now more a communications platform, not exactly an accelerator. And what we do is we're trying to help developers, we're trying to help the ecosystem, and we want to connect and share expertise from MY.GAMES people and from other entities like Google, Amazon, Data AI, Unity, for example, with mobile developers in the sense of Game Drive, because it's very hard to make a proper mobile game. And, the more we can help with that, the better for the whole industry.
What's interesting about what you're saying is you're building an ecosystem, but of course it works best when you totally understand what the game devs, what the marketers, what the people want. And this brings me to some research I was reading. You mentioned MENA, and MENA is an area I'm really focused on because it's such an exciting region as well. And they did research because they wanted to understand, are we building what is needed? And so they asked the game developers, and it turned out that the thing they wanted most were things like communications, marketing, some development, but not as much. So that was an interesting outcome there. What are you finding that your game devs, that the audience, that the developers, the people really need, and how are you making that match?
I would say communication is the key. I'm not saying that people lack communication skills. What I'm saying is whatever you make a game, you build a gaming studio or a gaming company, and it's applicable to big companies like MY.GAMES and to small studios of 3 to 5 people. You have to have a proper communication. You have to make sure that people understand each other on a very, on the most basic level, because I deal with that a lot, externally, internally. This happens all the time. Sometimes people just do not understand each other, and they're saying the very same thing, and it means completely different stuff for them. So if I would try to pinpoint one thing that everybody, not everybody, but sometimes game devs lack, is communication. Be it communication between the startup and a venture fund, or a publisher and a developer, or the player and the gaming studio. We have to constantly work on better communication.
You have found your tribe, Anton. You have found your tribe. We run into this issue time and time again. Yeah, you can have made the best game in the world, but if people don't know it's there, then it doesn't matter, because nobody's going to come and play it.
The ecosystem is vast, and we know that communications is a core skill. But what about what the developer needs to do in order to sort of unleash that? They're not going to do it always on their own. Some of them might have great personalities, and soft skills is exactly where they excel. But if they don't, they need to know how to bridge the gap that they can't themselves. So they're working with different people in the ecosystem, maybe even yourself.
The most important thing to do for a game developer is to know their audience, right? We have already established that. And for example, at MY.GAMES, and I'm pretty sure in every other big gaming company, not even big gaming company, they have special people for that. And sometimes they're called publishers, sometimes they're called brand managers. You may call these profession whatever you like, but these are a particular kind of colleagues, at least at MY.GAMES, who know exactly the right influencer, the right media outlet, the right communicator to help game developers, level designers, game designers, producers address that audience. So you cannot underestimate the importance of a brand manager, of a publisher, of a person who is specializing in being a communicator, a middle manager, a middleman in this situation between the audience and the influencer, and the media outlet and the developer.
So, Anton, your point about influencers, I think, is very well made, and it kind of brings us back to the success that you're experiencing at MY.GAMES. Rush Royale is the number one game in tower defense, which is one of my own particular favorites out there. And according to Data AI, you've now surpassed over 63 million installs, with just north of $230 million in revenue. And this is where your recent collaboration with Jake Paul, the boxer and influencer, comes in. So was this all planned, or was this kind of like you thinking on your feet? Can you tell us a little bit more?
Sure, sure, absolutely. And I mean, thank you so much for being a loyal player, because I love it myself. We have several people from the UA and from the marketing team playing these on amazing level. Like I'm a casual mobile player. I'm more of a console guy myself. But these guys, they're playing Rush Royale like crazy. And yeah, there was this idea that we should do something with a huge influencer or an actor or an actress. And we had a full roster of those guys. And we even were thinking about Henry Cavill or Ryan Reynolds. Those guys were in the roster as well. Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not sure whether this is NDA or not, but we're gonna learn about this later. Anyway, and the funny thing is, for example, like Cavill doesn't do anything with mobile at all, and he's gonna be in the Warhammer thing sometime in the future. So he's a very PC focused guy. We had different pros and cons, and we reached out to Google to help us, learn the audience of Rush Royale and help us out with those influencers, with those opinion leaders that can provide the biggest result. And so Jake Paul was one of them. And after some careful consideration, we had some short list of people, and eventually it came down to Jake Paul. And as we are now seeing by the results of the campaign, the decision was right.
We gave the numbers up front, but can you tell us a little bit more about the campaign itself, and in terms of how it's been implemented and what you're doing, and potentially how you're reacting to the audience?
You've got this one event actually that's still going on as we speak.
It's actually finished now. It finished at the end of June.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's okay. And so Jake Paul is, of course, more popular in the US than in any other region. And we saw in the beginning of the event, we saw a more than 20% increase in DAU of the game in the US region. And back in June, Rush Royale achieved new records, and we had 1.14 million DAUs and more than 6 million MAUs in the game. So this is the direct influence of the collaboration.
So obviously, you've got the influencer campaign running. Have you had any plans about perhaps integrating them, using them, more interactively within the game itself? Some sort of brand takeover, or is it still just you're focusing on the marketing approach?
If I got it right, we actually did some integration. I mean, Jake Paul had his own hero. He voiced over that hero, so it wasn't just like saying play Rush Royale and that's it, right? So we had some gaming interactions. We had a special tournament dedicated to that. So we try to and several video ads, of course, dedicated to that. You can find them on YouTube, on TikTok. So yeah, we try to integrate him as much as possible into the game without breaking the UX, the player UX.
That's understood, and it comes back to that focus on the player, and treating them with respect that we talked about at the very top
absolutely.
of the show.
You gotta listen to the player. I mean, it's all cool and fancy and hypey. I mean, MY.GAMES and Rush Royale and Jake Paul are doing something together. But again, if the players don't like it, and this somehow breaks the experience for them, there's no worth in that, right? It's always tough. You have to find the right balance between what the players want and what you want as a business.
I'm curious on the back of that. When I think about what MY.GAMES brings to the table, we're talking about communication and your skills and building that ecosystem, which you are doing through all of these different projects. But can you unpack a little bit more of what you actually do and what you maybe gauge or consider when you're trying to make that match?
Yeah, you got to take into account, I would say, three factors which are most important. The first one is, of course, the regions that your game makes more money in, right? So, for example, I know I have lots of special decks. I have all these presentations which are updated monthly on a monthly basis with PC and console pipeline games of my games, PC and console portfolio, mobile portfolio, mobile pipeline. The venture, we have an investment division, and they have their own like studios who they work with, and those studios have mobile games in their pipeline. So we have to keep track of that as well. And so I have these whole bunch of presentations. We have like top 3, top 5 regions with we constantly check that with the analytics team, and I always know in what particular region this particular game makes the most money, right? And then you got to know the audience. You got to know. I mean, that's obvious truth, right? But still, you got to know exactly who plays your game. What is the portrait of a person who plays your game, right? And I'm not gonna say like not every studio knows that. They do, but that's because we have a very strong analytics team, and you gotta know which influencer or which YouTuber or which streamer or media outlet or whatever channel of communication you have, like TikTok, for example, um, how much it is associated with a particular region and with a particular person. And when you hit the right spot, you have the results. When you don't hit the right spot, yeah, well, this happens. I mean, we've had some, I would not call those flops, but we have some miscalculations. We have some missteps in the long history of the company. And that's okay, because once again, there's no silver bullet for that.
You've kind of hit the nail on the head there, Anton. There's no one size fits all anymore.
Absolutely.
You don't just have a marketing plan that you can apply to multiple games, not even multiple games within the same genre, within the same region. Everyone has to be sort of very carefully tailored and kind of directed. So, it's a tough job.
Absolutely. I mean, we have, I've mentioned that we try to provide as much of support to the studios, to the game developers as we can. And we have the whole ecosystem, the whole internal ecosystem of services. We have things like we have a proprietary marketing analytics and return on investment prediction platform, and we have a whole team dedicated to just that, to making sure that other teams, other studios who are actually making games, they have all the right tools they need to understand the audience. I'm not just talking about game engines, right, or data AI or sensor tower analytics. I'm talking about, for example, we have GameStat, which is a product data platform. It visualizes data. It has a very structured, very clear representation for decision making. And we also have so every studio has its own marketing team, right? And also MY.GAMES has a central marketing team. And these people are always communicating with each other. And the central team, the central PR team, the central marketing team are in the constant process of communication with the PR and marketing teams of each studio, which means that using these tools and these systems and these platforms, we can constantly monitor. We have this comprehensive marketing approach. We try to attract attention. We try to get players engaged and build loyalty. And you might you know this better than I do, that this day and age, brand marketing and brand performance is of paramount importance. And brand marketing and brand performance is what is now getting into like on the forefront of making games, of the gaming industry, because the UA costs are crazy, right? And the marketing is getting more costly, more expensive. And you got to make sure that not only you can go out and buy a new player, right? Through advertising, through marketing, through user acquisition, you also can retain those players. You can make sure that they're loyal to the brand. And this is why we're doing all these collaborations. This is why I keep talking about communication and making sure you know your player, you know the niche, you know the subgenre, you know the audience. On mobile, everything used to be around about user acquisition. How good, how excellent you are in buying players, in acquiring players. And now it's a little bit different. You got to think about loyalty. You got to think about branding. You got to think about retaining players on a more, I'd say, subconscious level. You know, so yeah, we have like the whole system dedicated to that. Several platforms again, and yeah, constantly checking what's happening on the market and with your particular products and what subgenres are on the rise.
Now, you work across so many different genres and so deeply in each of them. What are maybe some consistencies that you're seeing around community building, fan-oriented content that you can share? You know, some of the consistencies around building a great game brand.
The funny thing is, this famous phrase about football is that playing football is easy, but playing easy is very tough, right? Something like that. And I would say the same applies to making games. Everybody knows on paper how to make a good game. Really, it's not rocket science. Your game has to be engaging, have some cool mechanics, have some great narrative, right? Even, I mean, have some great meta, have some great core. Still, in 2023, some people think about narrative designers and narrative as a whole being not particularly required for games, especially mobile. Yeah, I mean, I still see opinions like that. And then sound design and art, right? Sometimes some people say you don't really have to have music in mobile games because people play with their sound off. And this is crazy because we have whole teams of people dedicated to making awesome sounds, awesome music, and it becomes the part of the brand. And one more thing that we really care about in our games at MY.GAMES is that we would rather find out and make sure, and you may count this into the consistencies of the game, of the game portfolio that we have, is that we want to make sure that we try and find new audiences for the games we already have, rather than trying to make sure that you come up with a completely different game, with a completely new game, right? And trying to soft launch it properly and look for new audiences. I'm not saying we're not doing that, but one of the things that I love about the company and the games that we do is that we are very much focused on making sure that we find new audiences for the great games we already have. And one of the things that advocates this is the recent news that War Robots, another huge game from MY.GAMES, and the game has recently celebrated 9 years, which is an incredibly good time period for a mobile game. And the guys have done more than $750 million in the lifetime revenue, and like 250 of those have been grossed in the last 2 years. So the game, which is 9 years old, keeps getting money, keeps getting players, and we have recently, and not long ago, we have announced an extension of this IP onto PC and console, which is War Robots Frontiers. and we're going to have like an open beta test in September or October or something like that. Do not quote me on that, but what we want to do is that we have great IP, we have great game, and we want to make sure that as much people as possible play that on every platform available, and with, as much content as possible. I would count that as a consistency of, MY.GAMES portfolio. One of the consistencies of MY.GAMES portfolio.
I could keep going on about the sort of the core and the mechanics and that cross-platform approach. You're not just concerning yourself with the blueprint for growth at MY.GAMES, because I believe you're also the co-founder of something called InvestGame, which looks at gaming market intelligence. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because that sounds incredibly useful.
Yeah, I'm co-founder of InvestGame, and Sergey is another co-founder, and he now works for Arim, which is an investment bank and a sell-side advisor, and to gaming companies. And what we do is we keep track of all the global gaming deals on the market. There are other platforms which track VC and venture deals on the market, of course, like Capital IQ and PitchBook, and they have reports and everything. But I would say, to my best knowledge, InvestGame is the only platform which is 100% dedicated to gaming. What we do is we do weekly digests, keeping track of all the deals and basically keeping track of notable transactions and doing some featuring, like talking a little bit more, diving a little bit deeper into particular deals. And then quarterly reports, and the half of the year report is on its way. It's hopefully going to be out in the beginning of August. So we once again going to talk about what happened in the first half of 2023 in terms of VC and M&A and public offerings, and pretty much nothing happens in the public offering section in 2023.
Well, you just called it dead. I mean, that didn't.
Yeah,
kind of definite and dismal, actually.
I have the Q1 report in front of my eyes, and there was like there were like 9 deals in the whole first quarter with the total disclosed value of $500 million, which is nothing compared to, for example, the first quarter of 2021. We tracked 37 public offerings of the total value of $8.7 billion. So you can see the difference.
Before we let you go, we have a couple of questions that we ask all of our guests. Nothing scary, but it does speak to every single one of our listeners. So the first thing is, what game are you playing right now? What's kind of obsessing you? What you're really spending some time on? And then secondly, what is your favorite game of all time?
Yeah, I'm right now playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is the first game in the series, not the second one. The most favorite game of all is it's FIFA, actually, because I have so many hours packed with every iteration of this franchise that it's scary.
We brought you on, and when we said at the start, great communicator, great connector, all true for me, Anton. It was great to connect with you and great to have you on the show today. Thanks so much.
Thank you guys so much. Again, huge pleasure, huge honor, maybe 5% helpful and useful for this.
Oh, I think we can bump that up to between 7 and 9. No problem.
Awesome.
This show is all about how to do your job better, how to make an amazing game, how to market it, and you have a say. So if you have a story or know someone we need to shine a light on, then we would love to hear from you.
We want to hear from you. We want to reflect the reality of the mobile games market in all its wonderful complexity and strangeness. So if you have any suggestions for us, if you have any feedback for us, you can always get in touch. You can email us at podcast@pocketgamer.biz. You can find us on Twitter at PGBiz, and you can reach out to us through the pocketgamer.biz website. If you're interested in listening to all of our podcasts, you can find them at pocketgamer.biz/podcast, and we would love to hear your thoughts on future shows.
And we've got you covered on all the major platforms, so subscribe to the audio podcast, as Brian said. Look for us on YouTube. If you want to read it, hey, you can do that too, because we have a companion post for you as well on the pocketgamer.biz website.
Tune in again for the next edition of the pocketgamer.biz podcast, and we look forward to speaking to you in the near future. Until then, I'm Brian Baglow.
I'm Peggy Ann Saltz, and that's a wrap until next week.